You will see the reality by the lenses of those emotions. And many times, this is exactly what we need while we grow right here, right now. But eventually, while the soul is able to experience reality through the lenses of survival, thoughts, and emotions, there will be this window appearing between the eyebrows from which the soul will take pics at the true reality, and it's something completely different. Because all of this is an illusion, but although it is an illusion, what we experience is real, and we need to focus on that.
Melting Pot, a global podcast series hosted by Pyle, connects guests who have inspiring stories and reaches out to a multicultural audience over 52 countries. Guests are diverse, such as celebrities, entrepreneurs, travelers, and many more who've had a turning point in their lives and moved over to a holistic lifestyle. Follow us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, social media.
Hi, everyone. Today I am in conversation with Andrzej. I have no idea how to pronounce his last name, so I'm not going to even try. I'll ask him to probably help me with it later. Andrzej is a Taoist. He's a spiritual sage and empath guide who has studied traditional Chinese medicine, esoteric Tao, yoga, kung fu, qigong, and Tai Chi. He says that he is constantly in a meditative state, and by that, all possibilities of life are open for him. Thank you so much for joining me today, Andrzej. And I'm really curious to understand your whole journey and also understand all the different practices that you have learned and you've made into one, your life practices, and two, how you've helped others. So thank you. And before we start, I would really request you to pronounce your last name for me, please.
Hi, all. Thank you for having me. My name is Andy Kozlowski. You can call me Andy or Andrew, which is equivalent of that name in English, and it comes from Greek.
Yeah.
And it means to be manly. And I'm more than eager to share the results of my long studies. So it is like putting seeds to the soil that one day they can manifest as beautiful trees and flowers to give fruits of knowledge to those that are listening.
Excellent. Okay, so let's begin on how you actually started to explore the shamanic practices and the Eastern wisdom traditions. What was the pivotal moment or an experience that actually set you onto this path? Because looking at you, you're very young. So you must have started when you were even younger to have this kind of knowledge. So if you could just share some of how you started your journey.
All journeys are started with the first step, and then what you need to do is keep on going forward. I was no different. My journey started with my perception of being different because I perceived reality through different lenses. I was born with abilities that I couldn't use to my benefit, so I treated them as a curse. So I started this search for Holy Grail, for something to make me whole again. But God doesn't make mistakes.
When was that? How old were you?
Since I realized that I was different, I'd say as long as I can recall. But I have a good karma from previous life, and that means I have been taught by an enlightened master since I was approximately 10. He was also a Taoist and a specialist in traditional Chinese medicine and a herbalist. Under his guidance, I was able to bloom and be able to pass my knowledge to the next generation.
Okay. You've immersed yourself in both the Western psychology and the Eastern spiritual practices. So how do you integrate these seemingly different philosophies in your work as a guide for empaths?
A martial artist is someone that trains techniques, for example, of striking countless times. He trains the left punch, he trains the right punch, until he reaches a state where he operates on skills. And all of those techniques or modalities from the West to the East have one thing in common and one destination to be reached, and that is to reach a state where there is no thought and you can use the mind to your benefit, and the mind is no longer using you. So I'm blending it by not blending, by not putting focus. It is being done on my behalf.
Okay. Okay. I read that you have done over 7,000 hours of meditation. What kind of insights have you gained from, and I know before we started the conversation, you said that it's not that you try to be meditating, you're in a meditative state all the time. So how have your practices evolved over the years?
Indeed, that was a long journey. I believe I started meditating using mantras. And I started using mantras because, again, I thought there was something wrong with me. So I was searching for something to make me whole again. God doesn't make mistakes. Everything between heaven and earth is perfect. So that search was doomed from the start. And most likely, this is why the journey took so long for me. Instead of living, I was thinking about living, and you cannot do both. So I have been exploring different styles of meditation to the point that I realized that I'm not accepting who I am, that I'm not accepting my essence, that I'm special if I'm willing to accept that, to embrace that. I will stop fighting the universe and the universe will stop fighting back. So most important thing to know about meditation is that this is a tool and all tools can be used to build you or destroy you. Meditation is no different and it is not a holy grail to fix for all. If you see from the perspective of pure meditation, which is similar to Vipassana, for example, what we need to know and understand is meditation will amplify the state that you're currently in. So if you're anxious, if you're depressed, you most likely should stay away from meditation because that will amplify that state. You, first of all, should release that pent-up energy in the body before you sit down and observe the mind, observe the body. Also, what's worth mentioning is if you're gonna sit in prolonged period of time with your legs crossed, that's obviously gonna impact the body blood flow, the oxygen flow, and the fluid flow. So it's very wise to massage the body before and after to ensure all of those essential things are flowing correctly in the body. Without that, the meditation can bring you more harm than it can give you good. There is also another thing that is worth mentioning, that many people, it seems, use meditation to grow their egos. And there was this famous recipe for Buddha, which actually comes from Vipassana environment, mentioning that you should meditate 1 hour in the morning, 1 hour in the evening, and you will become enlightened. But it doesn't work like that. All flowers bloom in due time, and the flower doesn't think when to bloom. When it's ready, it just blooms. So when you're in that mind frame, many times the ego grows. Instead of keeping it to yourself, you tell all of your friends that you meditate, that you're advanced, that you're spiritual, that you're enlightened. And in fact, it creates this attachment that slows you down on the process. So truth be told, if you want to advance on the spiritual growth, do nothing. Don't interfere with the process. Your soul knows exactly what it wants to experience. So let it guide you through this journey. Do not allow the ego to be driver while the soul takes a backseat, especially if you allow the ego to drive this car and you're not looking left or right, back or front. If you would do that in a car, that would be a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
This is the same.
Yeah. So you're saying that basically you don't use, a lot of people probably use meditation as a tool and believe that whatever state of mind they are in or state of being they are in, as soon as they meditate, things will change. But you're saying that doesn't happen, right?
I can go even deeper. Many people use spirituality or personal development as coping mechanism, as an escape from reality, instead of facing their challenges head on, they escape to this safe environment where they sit with their legs crossed, meditate, do yoga, and it's not doing them good. In fact, it's blocking their potential. The only way to grow is do what you're supposed to do. Do the things that are tough and hard so your life can become easy. But unfortunately, nothing lasts forever. And it seems that this includes spirituality, which nowadays it seems is only a coping mechanism.
Yeah. If you don't mind me asking, when you were younger, you mentioned that you were different. In what way were you different? And what is it that people did not respond to you in a positive way?
I am highly sensitive person, meaning I'm an empath. All empaths had experienced a traumatic event in their childhood that made them hyper vigilant to the environment, as in being in standby mode for any dangers all the time. That is a double-edged sword because while it's taxing and overwhelming to feel everything around you, on the other hand, you can manifest things much sooner and faster, and you can know the secrets of the universe. But without controlling that, it might as well break you, especially if you see things in people that they don't see themselves. And for you, it might be obvious. For them, it's total mystery. So the challenge would be just let it go, stay silent, don't say that. And obviously, the biggest challenge for a highly sensitive person is interacting with others, since we feel so much. It's taxing, overwhelming. So we cope with it many times with daydreams, and that makes our soul leave the body. And when we interact with others, that make other people emotions, which is also energy, invade our body very easily. We stop breathing, our belly sinks, and we freeze. We would do anything to end that interaction, even at the cost of sponging those negative emotions. So we do exactly that. But we're humans as well. We want to be perceived in a particular way. We want to have good experiences. So when we go home, we start to play mind movies in our heads that we're gonna do something different. We're gonna say something else. And we're super excited for the new challenge to come. But when we interact again, we stop, we freeze, our belly sinks, and we stop breathing. And that happens again and again to the point that we start losing self-esteem towards us. It can lead towards anger and resentment toward ourselves. And it all started that we weren't able to express ourselves correctly because we had fear underlying in our systems. So there are ways that you can cope with it, and that is the right word. I have developed a technique actually based on the Silva mindfulness techniques.
I was going to ask you, yeah. So can you talk a little bit about the Silva mindfulness techniques and a little bit about, I understand it's Jose Silva who actually for years and years studied it, and now it's a practice that a lot of people are following and getting trained in, and it's impacted about 500,000 people is what my understanding is. So can you just talk a little bit about how you got into the Silva method of mind control and what exactly it is for the people who don't really know anything about it?
Many years ago, Jose Silva was just a regular man, and he was homeschooling his children so they could be more effective in school. And that is what the Jose Silva method was developed for. But apparently, he have started to do some tests with his kids when he was reading text to them, and eventually he stopped reading the text and asked them if they can guess what they think. The results shocked him, and he put all his attention into this method because apparently it is a method that can be used to develop your psychic abilities. And that, in fact, it is true. And I'm a big fan. I believe this is one of the best methods that came from the West. And it works for everyone. It doesn't matter if you're Muslim, Christian, Jew, or you're an atheist. It works when you reach deeper state of the mind, which is worth mentioning that the mind itself operates on different electricity, different frequency. The mind itself is similar to computer. It can be used to process data and make decisions. But unlike other computers, the frequency it operates on is different. Usually, while we talk regularly from day-to-day basis, we operate in something that is called the beta frequency. It's approximately 20 hertz of frequency of electricity running through our brain. It is what is called a state of logic, where the subconsciousness is guided by this logic because it's very fragile. And we are logical. It allows us to make decisions. But during the day, especially during the morning or evening, when we either going to sleep or we are just waking up, the brain is naturally slowing to alpha, delta, and the Silva method actually found out how to reach those states with very simple method. Ideally, you want someone that know this method as well, so you can use his brain as a reference, and then you will learn it much quicker. And once you reach that state of alpha, you can easily communicate with your subconsciousness to reprogram your habits. So a very similar approach to NLP, but I believe NLP only works on the mind, not focusing on the emotion. And that is a problem, because if we have a habit, let's say we smoke cigarettes and we're addicted to them, so it's not only our mind, but our body will crave those experiences as well. If we program ourselves that we don't longer smoke, it's going to be fine with our mind, but our body will still crave those chemicals. I like to explain it that what's going to happen with your body is very similar if you put boiling water to the glass and put it to the fridge. When you have two opposing force working on a vessel, it's going to crash the vessel. And in this case, the body is the vessel. So there is significant risks with hypnosis. People, hypnosis is literally just an illusion that you put on yourself. If you have pain, you're in your food. That's a messenger. That's your body is trying to tell you something, that you should put awareness on it. Go to the root cause of why are you feeling this pain. But if you're not gonna let in the messenger, that will manifest as even a bigger issue. And if you put hypnosis, still that pain might as well just manifest somewhere else. So Silva technique is much more compound and works on different levels as well. Not only talking about your subconsciousness, I believe that they don't teach it like they used to back in the day, because they used to teach some crazy stuff like real psychic abilities. They focus mostly right now on improving your life, your business as well, your intuition to acceptable degree. It doesn't teach you super skills in this manner that they are afraid that it might be used for bad. And there is this saying that they always do, that each time you reach those levels, the knowledge you gain will be used for the benefit of the mankind. Otherwise, it won't work. It is like they built, especially in the system, the good for the mankind. And it is highly effective. There are countless techniques within this method, which allows you to reach goals much faster, manifest things, or find solutions to a problem. And honestly, I believe this is best thing I've found in the West. But once I'm saying that, I also realize that if I'm gonna say it's the best, it's like saying the jacket is the best clothing you can wear without looking out the window what the weather is. So it depends, and it varies greatly from person to person.
That's true. You've also talked about shamanic experiences. My understanding is that there's a lot of mystery around the third eye travels, and the Aya retreats. So can you share a little formative experience that you may have had during these shamanic experiences that may have impacted you? And how does the healing work specifically for empath?
If we observe what shamanism is at the roots, it's basically observing the loss of the nature. And to a degree, everyone is a shaman and everyone can learn that. Not everyone can be a medicine man or curandero. You have to be born this way. And that is something that cannot be taught. Even either you are born like that or you're not. And if you start observing the reality without the pollutions of the mind, you will see reality for what it truly is. If you allow yourself to be used by your emotions, you will see the reality by the lenses of those emotions. And many times, this is exactly what we need while we grow right here, right now. But eventually, while the soul is able to experience reality through the lenses of survival, thoughts, and emotions, there will be this window appearing between the eyebrows from which the soul will take pics at the true reality. And it's something completely different because all of this is an illusion. But although it is an illusion, what we experience is real and we need to focus on that. So it also means that if we perceive things differently, who's right, who's wrong? I believe that actually both of us are wrong. But what we experience is real and we should stick with that. But our experiences, our environment have been co-created by us, by our thoughts, by our emotions. Also, we need to include what we have been programmed by the society, by our ancestors. It all have an input on the output, which is called life. So imagine you have a trauma. Trauma is a bigger than life event in one part of our journey. So what's going to happen is we will not want to confront that. What we'll do instead is put that event in a little black box and hit it deep within our body, never to be found again. And it is like an invisible nail in our food. If you have an invisible nail in your food that you cannot see, you cannot take out, your brain will try to protect you from the pain. So it will modify your posture, how you walk, and in the end, you will drag that food behind you, limping. But what's going to happen if you actually open that box? If you open that box and embrace that emotion, don't judge it, don't run away from it, don't shy away from it. Nothing lasts forever. Emotions last approximately 90 seconds. If you're able to stay present for that amount of time with that emotion, it will vanish. That nail will vanish. You will walk normally again, and you will no longer carry this traumatic event. And many times, those traumatic events cause our brains to acquire layers. If we have been hurted by a lover, we will try anything not to repeat that environment. But it would be so deep within us that no matter what we do, we would still attract those situations where we can be hurt. So healing is a journey of unbecoming who we think we are, so we can be who we are. And
yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I wanted to ask you about shadow work and how essential is it as a part of the spiritual journey? And what are the kind of techniques that you practice or you would recommend for those who are ready to explore their shadow selves? And what is a shadow self, or who is a shadow self?
it's basically everything that we run away from. And this is the funny part. If you start to run away, the person that is chasing you usually will run even faster. And that is one of the problems of spirituality because it's all about raising the vibration. And then when life happens to you, you lose that vibration. Everything bad happens to you at once. It is literally life is telling you, look, this is something that you need to put your attention on. This is something that blocking you. If you don't put your attention on it, it won't go away. It will stay with you for the rest of your life and even farther down the line if you're not going to fix it. So I say Shadow work is exactly what we need to do, but we shy away from the challenge. It's literally like checking if there is a demon underneath our bed. The process might be scary, but in the end, once we check what's underneath the bed, we realize that there is nothing and there is nothing to be afraid of. And that all energy that we have been using to run away from it, now that energy will propel us into the future, and it would seem like what we have been searching all our life has always been in front of us, but we have been blind to it because we perceived reality through different lenses and we have been blind to the possibilities.
Okay. What about fasting and diet? And what kind of a role does it play in spiritual and physical health? And are there any benefits that you have experienced from these practices?
I won't recommend fasting to no one. I fasted for approximately 11 days.
Yeah.
Why did I do that? Because I thought there was something wrong with me. My self-esteem was very low. Ideal way is of balance, is the golden middle. It's literally like sailing through a river. If you would go from one side to the other side, hitting the rocks from one side to the other, which means you go from one extreme to another extreme, you eventually will become very tired and you won't be able to enjoy the ride. But if you sail smoothly through the middle, you will have so much energy to enjoy life. But I understand that people have this tendency to wanting things right here, right now, and they tend to choose the shortest way possible. But this world is based on duality. So what's going to happen is if you choose the shortest road possible, that's probably going to become the longest road possible. And that is why many people got caught up into the Ponzi schemes and those pyramid schemes or make money quick schemes because I want things right here, right now. But it doesn't work like that. You need to put in time and effort to achieve things. I don't think it would be even fun if you could do it this way. And this is also why many people do practices that are labeled as shortcuts. And in the end, they are completely lost. And in truth, if you can be lost consciously, then it actually will be a shortcut. But this means that you will be meditating at all the times because you won't allow your thoughts to influence the reality. You wouldn't have any attachments, plans, or goals. You just allow the reality to unfold and see what's best for you. But that is tough. My advice is provide minimal amount of food that is required of your body. No more, no less. What your body tells you to eat that. Provide minimal amount of spiritual practices. No more, no less. It can be a prayer, it can be meditation, it can be journaling, it can be walk in the forest. No more, no less. And then provide minimal amount of physical activity. No more or less. Yogis like to say that you should stop once you reach the state where you are gently sweating. So approximately 50% of your possibilities.
Okay. Yeah. So what kind of advice would you give to aspiring practitioners, those who are new in and want to experience the world of shamanic practices or some kind of spiritual exploration? What is it that you would recommend to them, and where should they start from?
I would say start from the foundation. You don't want to start building a house from the roof because if you do it, that roof will eventually fall on your head when you least expect it. So build a castle for your soul to live brick by brick, step by step. Don't rush. Nature never rushes, yet everything is done on time. And what's also important, most of the spiritual trends are only fads, so don't engage in them. It will take time, but it is the only way to do. And what's also important, and I think it's the most important, is to find the right master or mentor that can guide you through this journey. I would say me, but I'm not for everyone, and I also don't work with everyone, and I actually don't teach shamanic practices because I believe that they are not required in the growth of the soul and to experiencing life to the fullest. I'm teaching only about the love to oneself and how to know oneself, how to release what is blocking us. And that is important. You actually need to understand that there is no need to know or understand everything. That indeed is a sign that you think you're not enough. And if you have that belief deep down in your system, it will be very tough to find something that is enough for you. And you would constantly try to prove your value to others, which is a loop, like a hamster running in a wheel. It doesn't really matter if he's running left or right, he's still going to be trapped in that loop. My advice, don't rush. Find the right master. Ideally, start with practicing the body. Have a good yogi master, have a good qigong master, or even kung fu master. Or you can do Tai Chi Quan, which I highly recommend, but it's going to take you countless years to learn it, to be able to impact your soul. But ideally, Tai Chi is a primary method of growing the soul and healing all diseases and just elevating the blockages of life. It's dancing through life. That is the end result of Tai Chi, but it's complicated. So it takes time. So give yourself time.
I think that's the most important lesson from here, is that you have to give yourself time, because like you mentioned earlier, shortcuts don't really work in the long run. You want to try and get to a certain point very quickly, but nothing happens without a process, and the process always takes time. So thank you so much, Andres. I've really enjoyed talking to you, and there's been a lot of learning from whatever you've mentioned and talked about. And I see that presence. I see that you've obviously gone through the journey, and there's been a lot that you've had to work on within yourself to get to the point where you are today. And it's really fascinating to see that. And I'm sure there's a lot more for you to go ahead and learn and understand and become, for it to become a part of you. And I'm really happy that we've had this conversation. And if anyone does want to reach out to you, if you could just share your information. And then, of course, it depends on you and whoever reaches out to you. But if you would like to share your information.
Very easy to be found. My handle across all social media is Baby Llama X, because I find it funny. And my website is sageandy.com. You can reach out to me. We will see if we are a good fit, if I can help you, assist you on your journey to reach your maximum potential. And that's that.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I really appreciate this conversation, and you have a wonderful rest of the evening. And as you mentioned, you're going to go away for about a month or two. So happy settling in. Hope you're able to sleep within the first couple of days of you going to your next destination. And just for everyone who's not aware, Andres is actually living in Thailand. So thank you so much, and good luck with everything. For more weekly conversations, do listen to Melting Pot on Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts. Follow us on YouTube and on Instagram at Podcast Melting Pot. So until the next episode, this is Payal signing off.